light that's on the property line, that becomes challenging because how do you point it down and not have it bleed into the neighbor's property? If you're, so that lighting, you want to have focus away from. The lighting, if it's on the building, you may very well want it to point down.
You've got me, I wasn't even visualizing lighting around the perimeter.
I guarantee you there will be at least some on the perimeter.
Okay. Boy, you want that subdued.
Right, so.
It'd be a security sense. I mean, at
Well, I
least,
understand it, but I'm saying it's really has to be a shielded, and I've seen that from you, shielded light directed
but most of
down.
the time they are pointed inward. They are not pointed, they're not just like a street light. They're usually pointed at the building.
Well,
Well-
some of it, I think for safety of your employees, you have to have the lights lit up. You can't have it dark out there.
Well, shielded, perimeter lights would be shielded and directed downward. How about that language?
Or shielded and directed away from the.
Or away,
property.
yeah, away from, right, even better. Shielded and directed away from the
Away from the property,
residential zone.
residential line.
Some of it might get eaten up by some of the border, we put the visual barriers, but.
Right, I'm just saying that gives, I was trying to give it the maximum amount of leeway to the developers without infringing upon the residential zone next to it, because if you, let's just say they put a small parking light up or something in a parking lot, right? I mean, there's ways that they could get around doing that, directing the light from, closer to the property line inward toward the parking lot, as opposed to just doing something straight up that is directionally straight down, but because of its height, is still going to go into the neighbor's yard.
And I think we will
What's
actually
1
do
foot
quite a bit
candle?
more massage on this.
It is.
Particular-
Well,
something
but for
about-
tonight's purpose, he'll
Measured
walk
out
away
the
understanding
Actual,
So
our
this
concern and what we're,
Right, and he may come to us with a completely different idea with a lighting product that we're not aware of.
that's true.
So this is from North Ogden's code. The premise shall at all times be equipped and operated with overhead lighting fixtures of sufficient intensity to illuminate every part to which patrons are permitted access at an illumination of not less than 1 foot candle measured at floor level. It shall be the duty of the licensee and the licensee's employees present on the.
Not
on the
less
premise.
than.
I don't know
We're
what
going
1
in the
foot
opposite
candle
direction.
is.
But that's
That's an old term.
What?
Is that internal lighting?
That's the minimum, yeah, well, it's exterior. It's
Yeah.
the minimum amount of light for you to stand up in a space, see the floor, see your feet, and be able to walk out. That's
Oh,
what
maybe it is.
Boy, 1 foot candle is,
I don't know why it's
1 foot
under-
candle at the floor
that's
level.
that is literally a distance of 1 foot from a candle. So you got
Right.
some idea of how bright it is.
So
Okay,
you
so
can-
that's,
you can
might
see
be
your feet.
inside. Oh, it is?
Huh?
You can see your feet, you can walk, cause that's the entire surface. But that's a security issue, that is, I mean, if it's anywhere that employees may go at night, they have to illuminate it, their liability is huge if they don't. So, as I said, I think we'll need to massage this, but I think this gives enough direction, to the applicant that they can at least get started. Okay.
Yeah.
One of the things though that I worry about is when you
Exterior
start
lighting
your car
is
up, your cars, they're all facing towards that, and they have their lights on, all those
Yes,
lights
that actually would not,
count as a.
no, and the reason being is that should not shine over the
Fence.
barrier.
That's where you're having a solid visual barrier.
Okay.
And quite frankly, you're gonna have more of that problem on the street, in the front of the building. I mean, car lights hit houses. I mean,
That's what I said.
That's about.
It's-
but that barrier,
that's
that
how
visual
it
barrier
is
should
written.
knock
It's
that right out.
No light should be installed in
Okay.
any way which will permit the direct rays of the light to penetrate.
So this is their
Any
exterior
residential.
one. No spotlight or floodlight shall be installed in any way which will permit the direct rays of such light to penetrate into any residential zone or any property used for residential purposes.
That tells them you can do whatever you want as long as if I'm standing at the property line, I cannot see the light bulbs.
that's exactly what it
Shines
means.
in your own
That's
way.
exactly what I mean.
And that's what I was
We're
trying to-
dancing around the same thing. We've got, there may be even a better way to say it than what we have, but the concept, I think we've zeroed in on it. don't you
But
think?
it'll still be lit up like associated.
Right, so they're going to bring in a concept
on something like this.
1830.
Lighting used to illuminate any off-street parking area shall be so arranged as to direct light away from adjoining premises and from street traffic.
But we don't need to worry about the last part of it.
Yeah, that's,
We don't want blind traffic coming down the road either with a big bright light.
You mean like just an
However, we don't set that, we don't make that, put that language on any other M1. You know what I'm saying?
Throw
So
it out there.
but we could.
we
It's
could.
not bad wording.
Well, I don't have a problem with it. It's just beyond the object, you know, the primary focus of this. But I mean, if it's another good addition to it, put it in.
That's good wording. Thank you. Let's go down to noise so that we can make sure we get through this. Noise shall not exceed 55 dB at the property line of the property. We got too many lines in there. Thank you, pointed that out, Lou. Should we put a car driving by probably generates more than 55 dB?
Well,
I
I
don't even know
see,
what that sounds like, so.
truck noise could be objectionable at 12 o'clock at night.
Mhm.
You can close your blinds and pretty much eliminate indirect light, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know what this, I just picked this off the, you know, generic source for noise abatement. And the issue is, do we want to set different rules at night than during the day?
Sound carries really well.
It does. And you can't ignore it. You can't, you know, you can pretend the light isn't there very easily just by going inside and closing your window, but. So these numbers just came off of the source, so I can't.
I think it's reasonable.
Most manufacturing are gonna have at least 2 shifts and probably a 3rd shift. I'm just saying, it's gonna be hard for them. 'Cause it's not viable to just do a single shift, like a single day shift.
So-
But but
So I
there's
just-
still the hum of the machines.
So it says 55 decibels is the sound of a household refrigerator.
Really?
But you're in the room.
Yeah.
How far away?
In the room.
How far?
Yeah.
55?
It says a jet engine is 140.
So
So
they exceed
My
that.
refrigerators don't make any noise, so how old is that?
Yeah.
I've got one out, I've got
You're
one
like,
out.
I don't think I didn't.
Talking is about his refrigerator or what he's reading.
This is coming from Yale University. So it must be right.
2002.
There's also a percolating coffee maker. It says at
What is it?
55, a percolating coffee maker,
Yeah.
so it's quiet.
It says a suburban area at night is about 40 decibels.
How about we limit?
The suburban area, see, that's where this 45 came from. It's just typical background noise for a residential area.
So exceed it for 30 seconds,
Back.
20 seconds, 15 seconds.
No, you limit it, you can't at any time exceed the ambient noise level. So if it's 45, you can't at any time go over 55.
Just don't run your refrigerator outside.
So North Ogden City has, on their sound ordinance, they use 55. Any sound above 55 decibels emanating from the sound source is considered a nuisance.
Really?
It says 55 decibels is the equivalent of a quiet conversation inside a home.
45 is probably extremely conservative.
Should we
Oh, I see.
Should we put a time, I mean, a truck driving by is going to exceed 55. Sure.
That was my concern.
But it's
is-
it's not like the vehicles are gonna be parked next to the fence. I mean, you're talking a parking lot.
No, but
Ways,
they
so-
may have to run trucks. And
Right.
again, it's not just this lot.
Right, that's what I'm saying is, is the vehicles are further away from
When I see that.
residential property.
So
Somebody's gonna be.
do you set a upper limit for all day long, or do we simply set an upper limit for nighttime hours?
Well, we could just go with 10 dB above the ambient noise level. So the normal give and take of the day, there's quite a bit of noise.
Okay, I'll be the devil's advocate again. So.
We're gonna get some horns.
So the person's trying to take exception to us. So they go over near the milking parlor of Papa George's.
Milking parlor.
And
That's what it's
that's what they call them. No, laugh,
Okay,
that is what they're
sorry.
called.
That's nowhere near the
We're
most
talking about the
offensive term.
1980s fridge and now we're talking about the milking parlor.
I saw,
Sorry.
Hey, enjoy some culture.
Okay, sorry, my bad.
from,
That's what they were, I laughed the first
from
time.
the turn of the century.
So we always.
No, but the reason why I have
You
that,
couldn't say it Pleasant Country today.
the reason why I have problems with that, they could very selectively go up and down Far West Drive, find the noisiest place and said, there's my baseline.
Okay.
I don't like that at all.
I see.
I want to give them a number they have
So
to live
Steve,
with.
what the base level you
Can't we
just
just
said?
have a level at night? Because I
I'm looking
mean,
for- I'm looking
it's
for
in
more.
some-
Well, that
and
was
we're-
what I wondered
We're
about.
working on that. The 55 dB does need to be probably 9 PM to 6 AM, something like that.
right,
During the day,
that's,
we have, yeah, I mean, it's a manufacturing facility. There's
Right.
gonna be some noise.
yeah.
Load trucks.
Mhm. I think it needs to be a
55
daytime
dB.
A nighttime restriction.
or nighttime, yeah.
Okay, we'll just leave this for now.
What does the Weaver County Health Department require for noise?
Want me to Google? Oh,
I don't
you're
know.
going for it.
What is their level?
No, our work, we can't be continuously, I think it's 90 decibels. We can be above that for short periods of time, but
Sure.
not as a.
Yeah, but what does the Weaver County rule say? The health department. The reason I ask is because that's who's gonna be out here enforcing it. The health department's gonna enforce, the health department's gonna be enforcing the noise ordinances. It's not gonna be Robbie or any of us. We don't have the equipment, number one, to do it. So what does the health department regulation say?
Well, we have a nuisance ordinance already in place that has some language, no number, that it can't be objectionable to adjacent property owners or some such thing. I don't know what the language is, but it sort of says that. So we've always got that as a fallback for the daytime problem. I'm worried more about the night.
Night, that's what I.
My neighbor's snow blowing at 4:30 in the morning is obtrusive.
Only if he's not doing your yard first.
That's right.
Particularly if you don't have a snow.
Okay, let's go down then to, visual barriers. So the first requirement would read, a 7-foot tall solid visual barrier is required between the M1 and any residential zone.
I feel like seven's
I would like to
but-
get a little specific here.
I don't know, you can just 7-foot fence.
You can,
And
oh yeah, but I'd like to get a little more specific.
I feel like it should.
7 feet, you can build without a building permit.
No, 7 seems like a peculiar number to me. What's
Right.
magical about 7?
I don't know
mean,
that
why
I've
not
seen,
8?
I've seen a
Yeah.
6 and an 8.
I'm thinking
It's the tallest fence you can build without a separate.
A separate.
That's where-
permit. But could
that's
you
where-
get
Oh,
it
that's where it
approved through
came
your
from?
building permit?
It could actually be part of your building permit, so we can say an 8-foot fence.
I would go
I
up.
think 8,
I would too.
either higher.
But here's,
No, I'd go 8.
That's
here's
what
one
I'm
of the
thinking.
things that I would strongly suggest, at least my opinion, okay? Is that you use a visual barrier that's not chain link, vinyl, or slats, okay? Vinyl's gonna get hit off of potentially out of a mechanical area or something blowing through it. Vinyl's not gonna stand up to it. You're gonna want something solid. Masonry wall, concrete wall, a sound barrier
A
wall.
solid 8-foot fence.
Right.
Yeah,
Trying to
You're
think
gonna
where I
want-
would have seen,
It's
because I mean, you can
basically
do
gonna-
those
What
masonry
is
like.
solid?
Well,
Isn't
that's-
vinyl solid?
Yeah, vinyl is considered a
That's
solid
what I
wall.
thought.
They're not
Yeah.
gonna put up an 8-foot vinyl fence that.
Will that get
No.
blown over the
They'll
first
get blown
strong winds?
It'll blow
But
right
those
over.
rocks, some of those solid rock, they could do like a block wall, but some of those solid rocks, walls are gonna be $40, $50 a lineal foot.
Oh, they're,
Yeah. And an 8-foot,
$56 a linear foot is what they're at.
What's wrong with doing?
8 foot's pretty high.
What's wrong with privacy slats and chain link?
We did a house years
Don't
ago
go
that
over
had a
that.
10-foot rock wall.
See, I'd rather see chain
All the
link
way
with
around the
privacy
house,
than I would
That's what
vinyl.
I'm thinking.
Not really.
Yeah,
I'm not a real fan of slats and chain link myself,
Yeah.
not at all.
I don't usually, but the vinyl will look horrible.
That,
$250 million for
If I had the choice between vinyl chain link, I'd do
That was
And
the,
it'll
they could afford it, though.
fade and it
that was
will
30 years ago. Yeah, they could
will
afford it.
chip and look crappy.
That was 12 foot tall.
A solid one might absorb
And
some of the
they're-
light and it
they're
will take some of the
absorb
sound
sound.
too.
Absorb
Bigger than my house.
I remember.
But 8 foot feels high.
6,000 square foot house.
See, but
8 foot
6
is
foot is
like-
not.
Well,
But 7
And it was-
foot.
Eight-
it had-
All from 1 foot is the difference.
no, here's the
But I mean,
problem.
a tall person would hit 7 foot, so most stuff is gonna hit that 7 foot fence and it'll
Except
absorb a
back
lot of
away
it.
from A few feet though, and
And it
6
looks
feet is
little.
short.
Okay,
Yeah.
going to 8 feet is not an issue, and I don't think. we'll
I
be
think
able to.
8 feet is.
If you look out north at Farr Park and some of those,
Yeah,
those are big and they're solid.
Yeah. I think there's a
And they're
solid
long.
fence around the new storage units, the Nest storage units
I would
too.
say put solid, but don't invite it being a slatted chain link fence.
Let
Or a
them
vinyl.
come to us.
Yeah, I would agree.
Let them come to us.
Well, you can't make a chain link fence solid. You can't do it.
But you can make a vinyl considered solid and I
You
don't like
can,
that.
but you can,
That
there's
would
not
be
one
An
that'll
8 foot,
stand.
that's true, that's not gonna be
But
an 8
probably for security, they're gonna want,
Yeah.
they're gonna want not a vinyl or a chain link.
No,
You're gonna want
it's-
security,
they're
you're
gonna-
gonna want it.
They'll invest the money so they don't have the headache later on.
Oh, yeah.
What's around associated,
Yeah.
unless we use chain link?
I don't know, I've never even looked at that side, so I don't even know.
But look how far away it is
It's
from
far.
residential. We're gonna be backing right up to residential.
Well, no,
That's the
no,
difference.
I'm not saying it for comparison, I'm just wondering if they have a solid or if they have a chain link.
Chain link.
Okay. Well, I know we're doing a project right behind there, off Rulin White Drive, right where you would turn next to go to this. And we had to put a full block masonry wall around the exterior of the
Yeah.
property.
I think a lot of it just depends, you know. The
And it
rules,
has to be 14 feet tall.
yeah, the rules have been changing as of late that I've seen coming down. And so, I mean, as Ted mentioned, we went out and saw one house years ago that had a 12-foot high block rock masonry wall all the way around it, and it was acres. Big, but the people that were doing it could afford it.
Yeah, and that's,
So I'm just thinking, you know, if you go in and you get some of those panels, just preset panels like the freeway, those work really well for some people, they're relatively inexpensive.
And I suspect that's exactly what you'll see.
Right.
It's the cheapest way to do it.
Right. Cause all they have to do is drill a pier, put in an I-beam, and then set the panels in between them.
So the
so then
next,
it makes you think that 8's not tall enough, but anyways.
they can do more. We're
That's true, they
setting-
can do
we're-
more.
We're in the
Minimum
minimum
8 feet.
business.
Yeah.
So you would drive through the industrial park, they're taller than 8, but anyways.
So we also added a 4-foot green space along properties of any residential zone, Okay, let me get rid of this. So a 4-foot green space along properties of any residential zone. Trees are required in any required green space, spaced a minimum of 20 feet.
I think that's an odd one.
Let me just go after the first one. First of all, I don't think we ought to call it a green space because almost certainly they would go for xeriscape with gravel. They wouldn't be putting
And I
grass in
think you're
there.
gonna be pushed more to
And
do
why do we
xeriscape
care?
and LED
So
requirements.
what do we care what's on the backside of an 8-foot fence?
Or
Privacy
LED,
fence.
sorry.
A privacy fence. You're not even gonna
Right.
be able to see it.
Well, and I'm
All
telling you,
trees,
pretty
yeah.
soon enough,
Trees
you're not gonna be.
trees softens the blow, but the rest of this stuff, the only person who'll see it are the people on their side.
We
So-
just talked about if something was parked there, they want to park right up against.
But if we're doing a solid
Well, okay, you
fence,
can put a
Doesn't matter.
distance of, is that your reason for the curb and gutter?
It was just one of the things we talked about. When I originally put this together, it was kind of a pie in the sky, what might be reasonable requirements. Then we used this as our discussion piece in that first meeting and you brought these comments.
I think I don't know that you need curb and gutter. But
No,
I do
I've
think you
struck-
ought to
Agree with that.
restrict how close to that fence they can park.
I would rather
That's
see
where the
that.
curve originated on
Well,
the
is that
last
where it is?
meeting.
But,
you
We
know-
were trying to figure out how to prevent a car from accidentally just
Backing into it.
going.
The reality though is that the way he's designed this, if you looked at his preliminary design, he's gonna have a detention pond in that corner. So curb and gutter doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you designed it with a detention pond there. So I think we ought to,
Right, so,
Curb cuts.
Well, if we're making them plant
again, we
trees, they'll
can't
figure out some
consider
way of
only
making-
no,
this.
I know that. But if this is a generic lot, do you care if they have a curb and gutter on their side?
No, and
No. Do
frankly-
you care how close they park their vehicles
With an
to?
8-foot fence? No, I
Isn't
don't.
Yeah,
that the
with a-
purpose of the 8-foot
Right.
fence?
Yes.
I agree with that.
So
And-
do we really need any?
I don't think so.
No. And-
Keep their light, their noise, and their water on their property.
And can we nix the
You can
trees?
get down to the point where
Okay.
once this thing gets subdivided.
Cause there's,
it's gonna
with
be
all of the
subdivided.
why do I keep calling it LED, LID
No.
requirements, we're not gonna be able to require them.
They're
to
gonna
do
want,
that.
No.
they're
They're
gonna
gonna have
want,
underground
No,
detention.
and trees become a
There's
two-edged
no way.
sword, because if the trees are on your south side, you really like them.
Mm.
If they're on your north side, you may not.
But I
Also,
guarantee they'll be
trees-
able to get out of
leaves
all
from
of that
trees
soon.
don't know property lines.
But what I've seen is
No
that
new branches.
some-
There you go.
if they put up a solid,
Yeah, see, all I have
a
is
solid
this.
wall, they're gonna wanna pave right up to that wall.
Shows the-
But they, I mean, and they won't pave up to the
No.
wall, but there'll be some sort of
That's-
zero scape or
right.
something.
There'll be
Yeah,
zero-scape is my guess. And they may put their own curb retaining.
right.
Well,
I never
I-
did anything.
But I
I
think we're
think
fine with that.
we ought to
So
just,
set a
you
4-foot
come to us
setback
with your site
setback
plan for
parking.
this, we're not gonna put it
That's
in
what I
our
would say.
house.
I can go back to.
I would say some sort of setback from parking from the
Yeah.
barrier line, which should already be part of their restrictions anyways, as setback just to property line.
Okay.
So we need to talk that one through.
What about the setback for parking?
Yeah.
I-
Cause
I-
that's more important than.
I
the
do.
rest of those.
I do think because if it's setback, there's gonna be less noise issue with,
Right, but do we care if they're behind an 8-foot fence,
solid fence.
solid fence, and you've got 30 feet from that fence? Worst case scenario, to the back of your house, what are the chances that that parking is going to bother you?
That's the thing, I guess I don't care.
I-
If it's a
I-
solid
I wouldn't,
fence,
I don't think I would wanna put that in as a permanent piece of an ordinance. It
Put
might be
what in?
something, this, I think we might
Oh.
talk about this when they come in with the site plan, and what are you doing and where are you parking? But I don't know that we would wanna. put
I
it
think
as
we
an
take all
ordinance.
of bullet 2 out and then change your 8
And
foot.
I, yeah, and that's what I've done.
And then
So
they have to come through site. plan
we
approval
will,
anyways.
obviously, we won't have time to hand, the applicant a list. So, and we can't make a decision, but when this is presented, if everyone agrees, I will just tell him that I will type these up and have them to him tomorrow.
And I'm assuming, depending upon what action we take, this refined list would be forwarded to the city council so they know
Right,
what's
it will
going
go-
on.
It will go with them as conditions
Okay.
of our recommendation.
Because those, our conditions, a lot of times get lost
Mhm.
Yes.
in
And so
transit.
it is-
And it, I think their intention is to approve with the conditions we've set, but they don't at times seem to understand that that has to be verbalized in your motion.
Exactly.
And,
So explain to me now the process, because we've never had to amend the general plan either, in this sense, because now this calls for,
the mayor, Reverend Maryland, asked that we modify the general plan to include this property as what we envision as an M1 zone before we.
go into this.
Right, and so, we will need to consider whether we're interested in amending the general plan to make this, more appropriately an M1 zone.
But we can't not do one without the other, correct?
Well, you can, but it's not considered the best.
I think I'm hoping that we'll be inclined to do so and we establish a precedent for
The boundary.
I like
for
it.
when we make an exception to the general plan, because we're using the general plan as our document. When a developer comes in, we'll say, it's not in the general plan. I don't want to compromise the strength of that.
Agreed.
No, and
the number of developers that I have talked to in the last year that I've told they can't do what they want because they want to do it south of 2700 south or 2700 north, I should have counted. It's a high number.
I wouldn't doubt
And so we're able to do that because a decision was made and we've stayed consistent with that.
Yeah.
So, and we, just one more point that we'll need to consider, so you're not blindsided in the meeting. I've been asked if we have an ordinance that says on a less than an acre, we only allow a 2,000 square foot accessory building. Why do we keep approving bigger buildings? And if our ordinance is not, if that's not what we intend, then why is that our ordinance?
But the ordinance says that it requires a conditional use permit.
Right.
It doesn't say we do not allow, but it simply says is it requires a review by the planning commission before it's
That's the
approved.
public hearing.
So
So-
the other thing we need to consider, and this I only thought of today because we need to give Nate some direction. Are we approving anything else? More specifically, the height difference of the building. And I think we need to, because I'm with Lou, I don't think we're changing any other requirements on setbacks, heights, or anything else when we approve that larger building.
Right.
And that's consistent with past practice.
And so I think we need to make that clear to Nate. And he may already be on, this occurred to me as I was driving home. We've been sending a mixed message. And like I said, we do have one citizen who's asked to remain anonymous, who feels that we're willy-nilly, I guess is the best way to put it, on our approval of these accessory buildings.
But they don't, I was gonna say, they don't get conditions on anything
You know,
else.
I've
It's
been
just-
on
it's
this
just the
commission
square
for a long
footage.
time, and we've followed the code. And the only place where we make a decision that's not set in stone in the code is on the size of the building. And that's because the code says if it's larger than 2,000, it can be allowed
Well,
with a conditional use
Right, and
permit.
if,
So that's still following the code. So where are we willy-nilly?
I'm just sharing the message.
Understand.
So
I'd like to have had that conversation.
No, so we also need to consider, there is a big difference between a 1/3 acre lot and a lot that is 0.9 of an acre.
Yeah.
And so, I think what we're doing is fine, but I wanted to make sure that this citizen's concerns were expressed in a more forceful way as they have requested.
And it's still a usable area
and-
within their lot.
And it still cannot exceed 20%
Right.
of their
Right.
rear yard.
Right.
Well, and maybe the 1 acre is an arbitrary cut line that we ought to think about, because that's a distinction. Is less than or 1 acre is greater.
But if you
And
can
maybe
use
we
that
need
as your
something-
usable area of your
And
lot,
that's something we're.
that's still something we have to think. Usable area of your lot, you still have to be cautious of that, because
Exactly.
if you're gonna
Always.
limit it based,
Always.
then it's
Super.
a little weird.
Will you lead us in the church?
Sure.
Brandon, will you offer a word of prayer? That could have been catastrophic.
As long as we're leaving on
This has been a very elusive piece of paper.
Hopefully, one of these days I'll be on 2 legs again.
Any word on when they're gonna get that done for you?
Well, it's the ulcer. I've got an ulcer. It's not good. And then last Friday it was at 87%.
We'll see how the big boy chair goes today.
Have to wait until you have progress on
Yeah,
that
I'm
before you-
hoping, yeah, I can't even consider walking again until I'm completely healed, otherwise it's best.
Just have it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody else said that would be in between my pillar again.
Where's my hammer?
Use your knuckles.
There's gonna be words with somebody.
What? What's the matter?
They,
Oh,
they hid my hammer.
I bet you that's a
I'm
mayor
gonna bring
move.
over my rubber mallet.
Ooh, yeah. I like it.
So, do we still show this if it's redacted?
That's not
Parts that are
maximum.
redacted are redacted.
I
right?
guarantee it's not either. I wanna know who's dumb enough to leave half of it. I'm gonna take it the whole thing.
What he was working
Oh, and here we go. This is all. The parts that are redacted in the document, right? We can still show everything from the packet.
It is 7 o'clock. I'll call to order the meeting of the Far West City Planning Commission this January 13th. We'll begin our meeting with an opening ceremony. Lou will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and Brandon will offer us an opening prayer. If you'll all rise, please.
Repeat after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we're so grateful for the opportunity we have to come together as a community to talk about the aspects of our city. We're grateful for the nation that we live in and for the freedoms that we have. We're grateful for the members of our community and the opportunity we have to come and serve it. Please bless all those residents and help us as we make decisions that we can do it in the best effort to help our city continue to be great. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you both. The first item on our agenda will be our newly elected mayor making his last city council report. Mayor Phippen.
Thanks for having me. Yes, so yeah, this will be my last liaison report because I'm handing it off, as we'll find out through these minutes. So we met last week, January 6th at 7 p.m. right here in City Hall. First thing we did was call to order, and then myself, Boyd Farron, and Katie Williams were sworn in as the new mayor and council members. We had our opening ceremony. We then went into comments. There were no public comments made. We then had our report from the Planning Commission. Ted Black gave that report to us. We then got into the business items. It was quite the meeting, so please bear with me. There was a lot of things going on the first year. So the first thing we did was we approved the modified site plan for Dominion Energy per your recommendation. We then approved the Oman commercial subdivision per your recommendation. We set a public hearing for January 20th to consider vacating a public easement on a property. We approved the business license for Health Incorporated. We then moved to, we're going to negotiate a contract with Weber County Enforcement Services for our code enforcement. That was passed. We then ratified the selection of we also have a new Far West City Justice Court judge, which will be serving this community. And he was actually sworn in today. I got to witness that. That was interesting. We then confirmed the dates of the council meetings for the first and third Thursday of the month, right here, 7 p.m. City Hall. We then approved resolution to designated individuals who are authorized to make changes to the city public treasurer's investment fund account. We then got into the fun part of the meeting where we got to interview 7 individuals for our vacancy that I the vacancy that came because I was elected. I'm not going to go through all of that, other than in the end, we've actually had to take several votes. We had a four-way tie twice, and then on the third vote, we finally got a leader, and then we motioned to appoint Janelle Latham to fill the vacancy, and that was a unanimous vote. We approved the 2022 business license renewals for all of the business licenses that were on the thing. We approved the minutes. We approved the bills. We then approved the 2022 city council assignments and the board assignments. It's all in the minutes, and then we adjourned. And at this time, I'd like to introduce, if there are no further questions, any questions?
Questions for Mr. Mayor? Seeing none, go
I
ahead.
support the bills as well.
Okay, I would now like to introduce our new liaison. Yes, so Janelle Latham is going to be up here from now on. So, and go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, we've talked a little bit before. I'm Janelle Latham. I live in the Mountain View subdivision, and I'm new at this, so be patient, but I'm super excited to be here and be part of it, so.
Thank you. That's great.
Sufficient? Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. And Janelle, thank you. We look forward to working with you. The next item on our agenda is a public hearing to consider the request of a conditional use permit for Troy Galloway for an accessory building over 2,000 square feet located at 2821 West, 3375 North. Is there a motion?
I move that we open a public hearing to consider the request of a conditional use permit for Troy Galloway for an accessory building of over 2,000 square feet.
Second.
Motion by Lou, second by Greg. Further discussion to the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. We are now in a public hearing. Is there anyone in the public that would care to comment on this application for an accessory building in excess of 2,000 square feet?
Is Troy here?
Troy, why don't you come up and tell us how big your building's going to be and what you're going to use it for?
I'm just building, it's 2,400 square feet. I'm gonna stay with it in the height. And I'm just using it to park some of my like my snowmobile trailer. I got my dump trailer, my razor trailer, just a few items, and then put a car lift in there to work on stuff, my car's truck.
And you understand that'll be personal use only?
Right, yeah.
Okay, are there any questions since he's up here? Do you have any questions for Troy?
Where is it going to be positioned in your lot?
The back corner of my lot.
And you're aware of the newly revised setback requirements?
I am. I actually had talked with a few people, and they said that they would look at grandfathering me in on it because
Who told you that?
There was a lady in the office that I talked to. He talked to Nate. He said he was going to talk to the lawyer. Because what had happened is I had started all this whole process over a year ago because I was the one that got an easement taken care of at the last meeting that you had. So we've been working on since February of last year, getting everything taken care of.
Oh, you had already been in dialogue with the city.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before the ordinance was changed.
Right, yeah. This was literally about a year ago when I started the whole process.
So unfortunately, Troy, that's not something we can do. You'll have to take that up with the city council, okay? Any other questions for Troy?
I thought I heard you say that you're going to reduce the height.
My original plans was to do it. I wanted it to be a 24 foot or 24
what we have
to
in our
the peak,
documentation.
but I've changed it now to a 20 foot as the max height on there.
Okay.
I have one question. When did you make formal application?
When did I start filling out for the easement? Is that what you're talking
Oh,
about?
when did you make application to the city? Not just talking to the city. When did you actually make formal application and turn in your paperwork and your fees?
I would have to go and look, but I would say back in October.
It says on the application date, November
Is that what
2nd.
we're
There you go.
Going by.
Okay. Again, you'll have to bring that up to the city council.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead and sit down. Is there anyone in the public that would care to comment on this application? Seeing none, I will entertain another motion.
A motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing by Geneva. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Lou. Further discussion to the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. The motion carries. We're back in the regularly scheduled meeting. The next item on the agenda is an additional public hearing to consider the request of a conditional use permit for Douglas C. Ross for a 2,120 square foot accessory building located at 1267 West Harrisville Road. Is there a motion?
I move that we open a public hearing to consider the request of a conditional use permit for Douglas C. Ross for a 2,120 square foot accessory building located at 1267 West Harrisville Road.
A motion by Steve to open a public hearing. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second
Lyle.
by Lyle. Further discussion to the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. We are now in a public hearing to consider this accessory building. Is there anyone in the public that would care to comment on this accessory building? Is the applicant here? Please come forward, sir, and tell us what you're going to use your building for.
Thank you to the commission for allowing this. I have never been accused of being a drug user or a drunk, but I have been accused of acquiring stuff. And if you were to talk to my immediate family, I have a plethora, actually an excess of stuff. So the proposed structure is to house all of this stuff, i.e. trailers, toys, things of that nature. It's a fully engineered building built by Nucor, and all of the prints are totally engineered by respected licensed engineers. And I've been in contact with Nate from day one as far as all the specifics. In hindsight, had I realized that the 120 square feet that it exceeds the building permit, I would have decreased the size of the structure. However, it's a moot point now as everything's well underway. So the consideration is it will improve the overall aesthetics of my property and get the aforementioned stuff out of the weather.
Thank you. And you understand you'll have to meet the proper setbacks and height.
Yes, again, I've been in contact with Nate from the very inception of this project.
Very good. Thank you. You can sit.
Thank you.
Excuse me, sir. Are there any questions for the applicant? You may sit down. Thank you. Is there anyone from the public who'd care to comment on this specific structure?
Might not be,
Please state
Ricky
your name.
Jorgensen.
Your name and where you live.
Yeah, 2868 West, 3325 North in Farr West. I've heard you comment a couple times on the current setback. So we all understand what it is now, what has changed since, say, last year? Can you explain that to us?
Lou, go ahead.
Okay, the front setback has been increased to the same setback we have for primary dwellings, okay? And the side and rear setback was originally 4 feet, regardless of the size of the building. It is now 4 feet for buildings at less than or 14 feet. When they exceed 14 feet, you add an additional foot setback for every additional foot in height of the building.
Okay, understandable.
Taller the building, the farther the setback.
Understand. So I don't know if I can ask this since it's not this building, but say Troy's building, he had the easements vacated for his building. So when the easements get vacated, does that allow him to move to 4 feet and then start going from 4 feet back to the appropriate distance with elevation? Does that make sense?
The ordinance really isn't an issue. The easement isn't an issue. It's a property line setback.
Yeah, and I understand that.
Yes, it's two separate questions.
Right.
It is.
If it is an easement, you have to honor the easement regardless.
Correct.
If there is not an easement there, it's been vacated.
Has been
That's the
vacated.
same thing as no easement, then you follow the setback ordinance.
Okay, perfect. That's what I was wondering. Thank you much.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate you being here.
Any other comments on this particular structure? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
A motion, we close the public hearing.
Motion by Geneva to close the public hearing, second by Greg. Further discussion to the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, say nay. We are back in our regularly scheduled meeting. The next item on our agenda is a recommendation to the city council on action on the request of a conditional use permit for Troy Galloway for an accessory building over 2,000 square feet located at 2821 West, 3375 North.
I'm confused. Is there concern that he doesn't meet the setbacks? Because unless someone else, I have like no site plan.
That's
gonna
be my question.
And that's up to Nate.
Okay.
It's so if his site plan predates this, I would get clarification from the city council if I were the applicant.
But are we, I don't see setbacks anywhere, so are we
No,
concerned that? his
we are,
setbacks
no,
not
setbacks are
over?
not part of our discussion. We were just making it clear that there's been a change. So if he needs clarification, which if I were the applicant, I would make sure that was understood in a public meeting. And then whatever the city council decides, we are only considering the conditional use permit for this application.
Okay, well, I guess I'll let anyone else talk if they want to.
Well, I would have had trouble with the conditional use when the height exceeded 20 feet, but since that's been adjusted, I don't see any reason to have a problem.
Is that a motion?
Yes, it is.
Motion by Lou to approve, to recommend to the city council approval of this application. Is there a second? Second by Geneva. Further discussion to the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. This motion carries. The next item on the agenda is a recommendation to the city council of action on the request of a conditional use permit for Douglas C. Ross for a 2,120 square foot accessory building located at 1267 West Harrisville Road. What is the desire of the planning commission?
I do have a question. Are we not concerned with recommending approval without any visual representation of what
No.
we're doing?
Yeah, it goes to Nate and Nate does it based on, so I'm okay with that. I
Yeah,
just wondered if there was a concern because that was the first question that came up but we haven't seen anything
Right.
from it,
So-
so I was
so-
trying to get on the same page.
I mean, I had to include a site plan when I submitted my application, so I'm just curious.
But it'll fall back on Nate and Nate
Okay.
will do it per ordinance.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Further questions? Okay, is there a motion?
I recommend to the city council action on the request of a conditional use permit for Douglas C. Ross for a 2,120 square foot accessory building located at 1267 West Harrisville Road.
Lyle, is that action to approve?
Yes,
Okay,
I'm
so
sorry.
recommend approval. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Geneva. Further discussion to the motion.
No discussion, but a comment. I've looked at an aerial view of your yard from the satellite, and I applaud you for what you're doing.
A little side note, on the 28th of this month, a professional tree service is going to remove every one of those cottonwoods that I knowingly and willingly planted. So they'll be gone as well.
Very good. I'll call the question. The motion is to recommend approval to the city council. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That motion carries.
Hold on, before we move on, can we let them know they'll need to come next week? Can we give them their little?
So this will go on the agenda for the city council next week. I would be here if I were you.
7 PM.
Okay. And you're welcome to stay or not. It's entirely up to you. Yeah, we are riveting. There's no question about
You will be
that.
offended if you leave, so you're stuck for the whole meeting now.
Okay, next item on our agenda is a recommend to the city council action on amending the general plan to accommodate the M1 zone on the Papa George property located at 1600 West, 2350 North, parcel number 19-042-0049. Just so everyone understands, Currently, that is not in the general plan where we've already had a public hearing. And as far as we know, we've answered all the questions relevant to that. The mayor has recommended, and the planning commission agrees, that when we do this, we need to formally amend the general plan so that our action on the next agenda item follows our general plan. So what is the desire of the planning commission?
I recommend to the city council that we take action amending the general plan to accommodate the M1 zone on the Papa George property located at 1600 West, 2350 North.
Second.
Motion by Geneva, second by Greg. The motion is to recommend approval of the change to an M1 zone. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Further discussion to the motion.
I applaud us for doing this the correct way.
Well said. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That motion carries. The next item on the agenda is a recommendation to the city council of action on the request of a rezone of the Papa George property located at approximately 1600 West, 2350 North, same parcel number as before, from an A1 zone to an M1 zone. I see John Watson, the applicant, is here. John, will you come and briefly tell us again what you plan on doing with this property?
John Watson, 1623 Far West Drive. I applaud you as well, Geneva, for doing things right. Thank you. As I've been in these meetings quite a few times now, I'm looking to do some industrial use on that. We've just finished a complete survey on it, and it's 28.051 acres that connects off of 2350 North and Rulin White Boulevard over in the industrial park. There would be a single building on it, and the desire is warehousing type space, not steel fabrication or any other type of real major fabrication type stuff, but more in line with warehousing.
Okay. John, I'm going to read a list of items that I suspect will be part of this motion as conditions of the development of this property. The first one is the minimum setback from any residential zone will be 20 feet. The setback, again, adjacent to any residential zone, will be equal to or greater than the height of the building. There will be no storage, no outside storage on the side of the property that's adjacent to the residential zone. Let's see, lighting, and as you can imagine, lighting is always a concern when we do this. So along the property line adjacent to the residential zone, it will be shielded and directed away from the residential zone. Then any lighting will not exceed measurable levels as determined by the city on the residential zone. And let's see.
Anything there about reflected light?
No, that I think was in the measurable. And potentially some items relevant to reflective light from the building. And I apologize, because we've not had a meeting to address this, we had to do this in a work session of potential items previous to this meeting. So noise will not exceed 55 dB at the property line between the hours of 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. And then there will be an 8-foot tall solid visual barrier between the M1 zone and any residential zone. So I will have those typed up for you if in fact that's the desire of the planning commission.
On the 8 feet, is that consistent with some other industrial use heights that you've looked at?
It's actually lower, like
Than
the
some?
industrial park that you border, they're at a 14 foot.
Okay.
So we felt like.
And obviously, we're experiencing a warehousing building just down the road from us with Amazon. And you've probably gone by that. They've used reduced lighting and reflective lighting to the ground and things like that, which makes it far different than our Associated or some of the others that are old time. The consistency on this would be absolutely state of the art, things that were up to
Well,
date versus long ago.
They turn to the code officials that sit on this commission, and we still live in the foot candle world, so we didn't think that'd be very beneficial to you,
I
so.
understand, and I appreciate that.
But just so you know, there will be, if in fact the planning commission decides to move this forward, there will be those conditions, okay?
Yes.
Can I just make a comment?
Please.
I hope you appreciate this, John. We've made an effort in these conditions to try to address every legitimate concern that was expressed in that public hearing. And I feel that they're reasonable, and yet I think the residents of Far West Drive should feel very comfortable with these restrictions.
And candidly, I want all those people happy, and I believe that you have. I knew coming in that there would be some conditions. And once again, in the modernization of buildings today, those things are really taken into account, and things are done really for our environment and for the people that are around it, which I'm one of them.
Any other questions for John? John, if you'd sit down, please. Is there anyone in the public that would care to comment on this application? Seeing none, I'll return to the Planning Commission and ask, what is the desire of the Planning Commission on this application for rezone?
So just to clarify the process, if a motion were to be made, we would do so with the conditions which have not yet been finalized.
We would base it based on the conditions that were discussed. They'll be put in typed form and given to Mr. Watson tomorrow.
Right. I'm just saying there's just a couple, like the reflective light, things like that, that are not finalized.
I think we can get close enough.
And that's fine, but I'm just saying, like, we can make the motion with the conditional, on condition of these terms, even though they're not finalized.
Right, so there's a design phase, there's site preparation, there's a lot still to go into this, and we will continue to work on this. This was not considered for an individual lot. We were actually very careful not to do this for one single area. And so this will be a change that will go into or be proposed to the city council for any M1 zone that is adjacent to a residential zone. This will need some fine tuning. What this does is this allows the applicant to move forward with his project, understanding that there are some basic requirements that will still need to be met. And there's a plan review phase that he'll need to go through as well. And so I think the city's protected, the citizens are protected, and I think we can make this clear enough that those doing the design work will have an understanding of the intention of the city. So do we have a motion?
I move that we recommend to the city council approval on the request for a rezone of the Papa George property contingent upon the conditions stated.
Okay, motion by Lou. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Greg and Steve. Further discussion to the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. We will make that recommendation to the city council. The next item on the agenda is the recommendation to the city council on action for final approval of Happy Days 3 subdivision located at 2575 West, 3100 North. Yes, and I'll have these typed to you. I'll try to get them to you tomorrow. Is there anyone from Happy Days?
Recognize the face.
Please state your name and who you're with.
That would be me. That would be me. My name is Kenny Palmer, and I'm with, what do we call ourselves? Happy Days. That's good enough.
Good enough.
All right.
Just give us a brief synopsis of what you've got going here.
So we've just got subdivision. It's gonna go along the whole south side of the general subdivision. So this is phase 3. We are going to be bringing some sewer and water out through the Hart subdivision. So it'll be coming up through what is that? I don't know the name of the road right there. I can't see it and I don't have my.
That's fine. Just a brief
There,
overview.
and that's already been approved. We've got all the easements. Engineering is approved it. I think we're good as far as the city plan and just coming up to put the final, yes, let's do it. There.
This follows the general overview that was originally submitted to the city.
Yes, it does.
Phase 1 and 2 are completed or under.
Phase 1 is almost completed as far as building the houses. Phase 2 is in production. Phase 3, one of the reasons we kind of pushed phase 3 is because we need that access to the sewer and the water and
That
the
was my
secondary
reason
water
for-
to get it up into phase
Yeah.
2.
Okay. Very good. Kenny, you can sit down. Is there anyone in the audience that?
Chair, before, sorry, I was gonna ask him a question.
Oh, Kenny, come back up. I apologize. Are there any other questions after Greg's for the developer? Greg?
I notice you're running, rear lot drainages from 72 to 81, rear yard storm drains.
Some of those drainages may change because we have a lot of fill that we're able to pull out of the trenches that we couldn't put back in.
You had
We
some
had
of
to-
those in the first phase, didn't you?
Because you're showing them in this phase on this drawing, I want to make sure that you understand you have to enter into a stormwater maintenance agreement with the city. So that the property owners know they have to maintain those drains if they remain.
I understand that's the property owner's responsibility as far as, they're responsible to take care of their own water on their own property.
That's correct.
And
but if
so
you're
we're
putting in a
providing-
Storm drain system. They need to be aware that that system's there and it needs to be maintained. So the city would ask you to sign a stormwater maintenance agreement.
I think that might be on the plat.
It'll be recorded over the subdivision. It's a separate document.
Don't argue with Greg.
Yeah. It's weird that they didn't put it in the.
Yeah, this
engineering
has been dealt with and dealt with, and I don't think we're making any changes. The only changes that may occur is there was also a provision that we could have just regular drainage. And if we can provide enough drainage from the back of the lot to the front, then we wouldn't need the.
Because I know originally we did not approve these, if I remember correctly. We,
I remember a conversation.
Went back and forth a lot, and we made sure, because Ashley on the drains, we wanted to make it go, so they would be sharing them, and they said, no, we're not gonna allow you to do that. So if there is a storm drain, it'll be done by each individual lot.
Right, but the agreement has to be recorded over each lot so that the property owners, as they're buying them, realize that they're responsible for that.
And it empties into ours, so why would we want that?
Well, I don't know.
If they don't maintain it
Complicated
properly, it
because
affects us.
your responsibility for stormwater is not just yours. Your responsibility for adequate flow through your property, which makes it very different when it's above ground than when it's below ground. That's the problem.
I just can't remember
Could be
the
a problem.
conversation we had the
Go to
first
plan
time that
sheet
this
11.
came through.
Can you go to sheet 10 of 11?
you have a sheet.
Oh, yes, sorry, I have it on here.
Bottom right-hand corner, 10 and 11. Yeah, you can see right along that back property line from 72 to 81. You've got drain inlets there,
Okay?
okay? So it shows on your plan.
Right.
And so if those are going in, you should be recording a stormwater maintenance agreement so that the property owners understand that they need to maintain that. If they fail to maintain that, then the city has the ability to come in and fix it at their cost.
Which is interesting because there's no real easement to it either, right?
Right,
That gets pretty sticky.
right.
So,
But there's an automatic public easement in the back anyways.
Well, it butts the lots from Hart subdivision though.
so why do we need an easement there?
Utility easement.
Well, you've got to be able to get in there and fix that if it's wrong.
What I'm saying is isn't that the property owners?
We're making sure that, yeah.
Well, if the property owner doesn't fix it and you've got a flooding situation, the city's gonna have to go in and fix it.
And the other problem you've got is you're running water from one lot to another without an easement. That's against the state laws these days. You're responsible to maintain your drainage on your property.
The city gets
Or directed
involved
to
the
an
minute
approved
the
outlet.
neighbor is impacted by the way his adjacent neighbor isn't managing the stormwater, if you see what I'm saying. So it's an issue beyond the individual property owner if they're not maintaining their part of the system properly. And that's where immediately the city starts getting phone calls.
You're running private water down through private property without an easement. You're crossing property lines. The state code's very clear with regards to not directing more water onto the adjoining property than was there prior to development. If you're running water above ground or below ground through that area, you need an easement. In order to do that, you need a stormwater maintenance agreement.
Yeah, and it's been a while since I looked at this and since we dealt with it. I thought we,
Okay. It's not that hard to do. It's really not. Because you're not gonna be responsible for it. What you're doing is notifying the property owners via their title, when they sign their titles, that they're responsible for that. 'Cause it's tied to the title of the property.
And I could have sworn through approvals that we came up with a different solution. Cause I swore there was more
That's
lots
what
that
I
had
thought.
this and that it was
More
eliminated.
fill and get it buried.
Yeah.
We were pushing all the stormwater out to the front.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If that's the case, then this goes away. I'm okay with that. What I'm saying is what I'm seeing here on this drawing is what I see on this drawing.
it's my understanding that each individual lot, if we needed them, and that's why I started with my preamble, if you
Sure.
will. It's been a few minutes since I've looked at this, but it was my understanding that we were bringing a line up from any property that needed it, that couldn't get the drainage up to the
It
front.
sounds like we need to do some research on this before we take action. Is there a motion?
I motion we table.
Motion by Geneva to table. Is there a second? Second by Lou. Further discussion to the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, say nay. This motion carries. We're gonna have to have this firmed up, and we get you on the next agenda. But we need to know. My recollection is we said we weren't gonna do this, but I know if you do it, you have to have the ability to maintain it, and you have to have an easement to flow water through somebody else's property.
Yeah. Okay, let me get, when is the next meeting?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, it is time once again to recommend to the city council. You'll remember via ordinance, we recommend members on the planning commission, but the city council actually appoints. I visited with Brandon, Lou, and Geneva, and all are interested in continuing to serve on the planning commission. So our next item on the agenda is to recommend to the city council reappointment of Lou Bess, Geneva Blanchard, and Brandon Whiteside to the Far West City Planning Commission. What is the desire of the planning commission?
Mr. Chair, I would be honored to recommend approval of the members to the council.
Motion by Greg to recommend approval of these members back to the planning commission. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Lyle. Further discussion to this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. The motion carries. Also via ordinance, we recommend to the mayor and the city council approval of a planning commission chair and vice chair. I believe I did visit with Geneva and she's interested in remaining the vice chair. I am happy, if it's the desire of the planning commission to continue as chair. However, we need a vote. I am also happy if the planning commission determines we need a change to serve in a different role. So what is the desire of the planning commission?
Mr. Chair, I would like to recommend that you remain as the chair and Geneva as the deputy chair, or whatever else you would like to call herself. That's my motion.
Motion by Greg to recommend to the city council that myself, Ted Black, and Geneva Blanchard remain in our current positions. Is there a second to the motion? Second by Steve. Further discussion to the motion.
I endorse the recommendation because we're still in the middle of revision of the master plan, and I think it would be ill-advised to change the leadership on the planning commission.
I think that's very well said, Lou. Okay, I will call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes dated December 9th, 2021. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes dated December 9th, 2021.
Motion by Steve to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Greg. Further discussion to the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That motion carries. Report on assignments, Brandon.
Nothing this time.
Darren?
Nothing to report?
Greg?
Nothing at this time.
Geneva?
Nothing.
Lou? Steve?
No.
I really wanted to just keep it going, but I do have one question with
Please.
regards to the video recordings that have
Yeah, my
got
goal might have
shuffled
been
under
a
the carpet for
little
Christmas.
tight. I'm sorry.
No,
I
it's-
think I
it-
set us up for failure a little.
No, you didn't.
Sorry.
I'm just saying, do we have to be, I brought some equipment to do your introduction. Can we spend 10 minutes after the meeting and get those recorded so that I at least have something to
Start with. Yes.
Okay, then we're good. Yep, that's it.
And Lyle?
We had a park meeting yesterday and the Barrow family came and they're working on the baby animal days. Ken, I forgot those dates. I never wrote it down. What's the dates? April 7th through the 9th. It's over the spring break. He's already got, food trucks lined up, including, I'm sorry? Yeah, Bella's. And it's going to be very educational. We're just working on all the logistics and we're meeting again in March. It'll be a fun thing. He wants something, it's something he wants to do every year. So we're just trying to work out the logistics on this, so.
Is this in February, Lyle?
It's in April,
April.
over spring break, 7th, 8th, and 9th, Friday, Saturday, and, no, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Yeah, and we're just working on all the details now and trying to work out the kinks. What if it rains? Because they want to use the riding arena as the exhibits things. How many animals, how many species did he say he wanted? Like 20?
We didn't have an exact number.
Yeah.
There's quite a few, everything from a giant bull with huge horns
Yeah.
to itty bitty little chickens.
Yeah, and it's gonna be educational. They're trying to get the FFA involved from Fremont High School. And the other thing too is that he also wants to show from farm to table. Bella's is actually gonna serve the beef that he raised. He's worked that out. I mean, it's gonna be pretty cool. It'll be fun.
Excellent.
Bounce house is the whole 9 yards. So anyway, that's all I've got.
Super. Thanks, Lyle. I have no report. Is there anyone in the public that would care to comment on something that's not been on our agenda? Please come to the microphone. Tell us who you are and where you live, please.
My name is Mark Lindley, 2897 West, 3325 North.
Mark, could you say your last name again, please?
Lind, L-I-N-D.
Thank you, Mark. How can we help you?
I'm not sure whether this is the commission needs to come, or I need to do this in front of the commission or the city council, but you have the liaison, your new liaison here. So, I got a few proposals. Now, I had two initially, but after I heard some of the commentary tonight, I have a third. First of all, I'd like to propose that a required inspection of outer sewer line from inside home to street with a camera on new construction. Reasoning behind this is a lot of the new construction has elevated sewer pipe, and it's ABS plastic, I believe. And my house specifically, I believe, was crushed prior to me even moving in. I've had to have it unclogged twice now since I moved in. And the second time was the exact same spot, and I finally had it scoped with a camera, and it shows that it was broken, and it's about 26 inches deep is all. So I don't know, again, I don't know if this is the forum to ask this a proposal about or not, but second one, require developers to follow up and enforce CCRs that they come to you guys with on approval and never follow up on.
I can tell you on that one, so CCNRs are not enforceable by the city. They're enforceable only by the homeowners association or the homeowners. So if you don't have an association, it's enforceable by your neighbors only.
And they have to take you to civil court.
Yeah.
Okay, so
They're not approved by the city and
there
they're
can't
not
be any legislation
managed by the
change
city.
on that?
You'll have to take that up with the state.
State,
So
okay.
the city doesn't
state law.
actually even see CCNRs. You can record them with the county and they record over the overlay of the plat, but they aren't something that's approved by the city and they're not enforceable from the city. They're enforceable by neighbors only. That's why most people don't
It
enforce them.
just seemed awfully strange, because I called on it, and the developer that was in my neighborhood didn't give me any CCRs. I actually got it from a neighbor at some point after I'd already moved in. And to be required to have these CCRs to approve and not.
No, we don't require CCNRs. The city has nothing to do with CCNRs.
So your CCNRs would have pulled on your title report when you originally bought the home or built the home. And then that would have been when they were recorded prior to when you built or prior when you owned.
On the, what report would that be?
Title report, when you bought the home or the
All those-
lot.
All those papers you had to sign,
Yeah, I don't remember seeing any of those, and
there should have been something in there with the CCNRs.
Yeah.
I'll look again. I've got all that stuff too.
And they'll be recorded at the county too. You can find, well, you have a copy of them, obviously, but they are not enforceable by the city.
I don't know. Okay.
Okay, what else can we help you with?
The last one, you guys were talking about the drainage. Another proposal is require a system for developers to convey to property owners and report back to the city on conveyance to new owners about the water drainage system.
That's what the
Because-
stormwater maintenance agreement is about.
But what I'm saying is, because I didn't get a copy of the CCR or a CCNR from my developer, are they gonna
Right.
actually follow through and do what they say they're doing?
They would have to sign it at.
Well, what they would do
A little different.
is the city has the ability to bond them for it. So they could make them pay for it up front, and then not release that money until it's done and had been inspected. But the stormwater maintenance agreement is actually recorded over the subdivision with the lots that have that drain in it. And that should be coming from your title report.
Okay.
Just,
Same as the
just an
CCNR.
aside, as a governing body, we're out of the loop on the dialogue between the developer and the person that purchases the property. We talked to the developer about requirements compliant with the code, but then once they start construction, we have obviously the city employees that monitor, make sure you're up to code and all of that. But we're completely out of the loop in terms of the conversation or how much information is. Unfortunately, there's a lot of times where that is faulty, where the developer does not fully inform the property owner.
Right, that's what I'm afraid of. is
Understand.
the new
You also
homeowner
need
is
to
unaware.
understand, much of this, if you want it changed, has to be changed via state law. State law governs how much the city can do.
Right. Okay.
The Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate are both developers, just so you know.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay, is there anything else? Seeing none, I'll entertain a final motion.
I move that we adjourn.
A motion by Lyle to adjourn. Is there a second? Second by Geneva. Further discussion to the motion?
Get her done.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for joining us.
Can I have a comment?
You.
What do you need from me so I can get ready?
Because I have your notes.
Okay, do I need to create a dialogue?
Nope, I can.
The response happened.
It's
sort of
for moving, for the sake of moving things along, I'm just taking your bullet points and I'm putting them in a paragraph.
All things
If there's just a
All
tiny bit of
things.
words
Yeah,
missing,
it does.
to make it all blend together, and I'll do that. And then I'll show it to you if you're good with it, and if everybody else is good with it, then you can read it off. Yeah, so all I need to do is prepare the video recording, which is only gonna take about 5 or 10 minutes. I can see wherever you want to do that. We'll get that done. I would like to, I'm gonna test what I do with Ted here. I'm hoping that everybody's paragraphs take 20 minutes in a work session and just get it
I've actually
recorded.
provided a copy.
Sorry?
But the one that I use, I work in another jurisdiction. I use. And I use, and what it does is basically say,
For instance,
you're responsible for this, we give you notice of failure.